Hey everybody, so it's time for me to do my June wrap-up. Can you believe half of 2023 is already over? I did not read a ton of books, busy, but I did read some really good ones. So I cannot wait to tell you all about them. Let's get started. Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. How are you doing today? As always, I hope you're happy, I hope you're healthy, I hope you're safe, and of course, I hope you're reading an amazing book or two or three or four. The weather has been very crazy in Northern California. It was very hot, air conditioning hot, and now it's back to being chilly. I think it's 68 right now, which is wonderful. The sun is out and the sun is brilliant, but the weather just can't seem to make up its mind. But this does mean it's fantastic reading weather, and I am getting some reading in. As you all know, I have started a new job that really dominated the month of June, so I only read five books in June, but they were all very good, so I can't wait to tell you about them. So, as always, get out your pen, get out your paper, get out your Goodreads, get out however you keep track of your TBR. If you are so able, please get these books from your local independent bookstore, or if you are a library user, get your library to get you a copy as soon as possible. So, as always, I'm going to start with the book that I am calling my favorite read of the month, and that's going to be Blackouts by Justin Torres. This is coming out from FSG on October 10th. I know that seems really far away, but it will be here before we know it. Now, Justin Torres's first novel, We the Animals, was one of my favorite books. I think it came out like 10 years ago or so. Little novella of a thing, but brilliant. Sorry, the cover has this like shiny thing so you can see things in the background. And I have been waiting with bated breath for his new novel, so I'm really excited to read this one. And you know what? It totally lived up to the hype. It is very different than We the Animals. It's actually very different than anything I've read this year. So basically, it's sort of split into two parts. And I'm going to try to hold it up again without you getting any reflection. So Blackouts is really the story about two men who met in a mental health facility. One is much older than the other. One is a young man, and he has traveled across the country to be with this old man as he is dying. It's at the end of his life. And their part of the book is they are sharing stories from where they came from, sort of their coming out tales and their life as gay men, and how they sort of have survived throughout time. You know, very different stories, but in a lot of ways connected. On the backdrop of this is sort of this historical piece of fiction about a book that the older man has found that really does exist, which is a sort of a scientific study of gay men, and then there's a second volume of lesbians that is many years old. And the copies that he has found have been blacked out. And in the blackout, the person, whoever did it, has created sort of like this poetic form. But these books are really just sort of chronicles of gay men and women in their lives that are put into this sort of compendium. And we learn about the history of how these books became, or these studies came into fruition. The woman who sort of started it all and gets none of the credit, her sort of social circle. And then also we learn just about how it all sort of comes together. The book is like sort of meta in that it is a dissection of the homosexual experience in the lives of these two fictional characters and their dealings with mental health and their dealings with just the world in general as gay men. And then also these, you know, this pioneering lesbian who did all of this societal work to chronicle the lives of gay men and lesbians, and how that sort of was taken from her and turned into something completely different than her original idea. I hope I sold that right. But it all winds up coming together and connecting together, I think, rather powerfully by the end. I really loved it. I don't know exactly how to explain it. I hope that I've convinced you to read it. But Justin Torres just has a way with words and storytelling that just brings you along on sort of this magical ride. This book does deal with a lot of heavy topics, so it's not always easy reading, but that's fine. That's sort of my bag, right? But it's beautifully told, and the relationship between this older man and this younger man is complicated and beautiful and all sorts of things. I loved it. So that's Blackouts by Justin Torres, out from FSG on October 10th, 2023. If you could please pre-order it. We want to support Justin because we want him to put out more books because he's just so very, very talented. June was Pride Month, and I did read actually quite a few queer books this month, so that's kind of exciting. The next one was actually given to me as a birthday gift, and if you watched our favorites of the year so far video, you will see that Ryan, who gave this to me, picked this as one of his favorite reads of 2023 so far, and that is Small Joys by Elvin James Mensah, and this is out from Ballintine Books here in the US. Elvin is a young British writer, and this is his debut novel, and it is the story of a young man named Harley, who was in university and really struggling, so he drops out, returns home, and moves in with one of his friends from before he went to university. And she already has a roommate named Muddy. And Muddy is a straight man, rugby playing, but very, very open to Harley and his experiences and making sure that Harley is taken care of. In the very first interaction, the very beginning of this book, this is not a spoiler, Harley is trying to decide whether or not to take his life, and Muddy interrupts. And from that moment on, their relationship builds. We learn that Harley comes from a very religious family. His father has sort of attempted to cure him of his gayness, if you will. But Harley has really struggled to try to figure out what he wants and where he wants to go. And the book becomes this meditation on this friendship between Muddy and Harley. And as they develop relationships, Muddy learns stuff about himself. Harley learns a lot about his friendships and his relationship to the world in general and where he wants to do. And what sort of this thing that brings them all together, which is kind of different, is that Muddy is a bird watcher, and a thing that he shares with his grandfather, and his relationship with his grandfather in this book is very, very sweet in a lot of ways. But there's so much going on that makes us who we are, and this book sort of dives into that, and what do you do when you are a little bit lost, and how friendships can really get you out of that. So that's Small Joys by Elvin James Mensah, and this is out from Ballintine Books. Ryan on Instagram did a review of it, much better than I did. So you should definitely check out Ryan's Instagram. Next up, I read Big Gay Wedding by Byron Lane. This is out from Holt. This was recommended at Rakeshaw Books in, I believe it's Danville, California. Ryan and I went to see Byron's husband, Stephen Rowley, and the owner, Michael, had recommended Big Gay Wedding, which had just come out as well. This is the story of exactly what the title says, a big gay wedding, but it's much more complicated than that. We have Barrett, who is a young gay man who is coming home to tell his mother something. He wants to come home and tell his mom something. His mom lives in rural Louisiana on a farm that, it sounds wonderful, by the way. I would totally move to this farm where she has animals and rescue animals, and she just does amazing things with children and learning and all that kind of stuff. But Barrett's mom has never really come to sort of terms with the fact that he's a gay man, and he's coming home to tell her that he's engaged. And that's where the book starts. And basically, it's a story of Barrett's mother coming to terms with what she and how she is going to interact with the fact that now the fact that her son is a gay man is not something that she can ignore any longer. She's also scared of being alone and worried about the future. Barrett's fiance comes very different than anyone else from their small town, and they deal with the fact that homophobia is still rampant in this part of the United States, and people attack them for different things. And also, Barrett's mom doesn't know how she wants to be involved with this, And then there's the question if they can have the wedding on the farm and how that all turns out. It's a lovely, charming summer read. The story is very cinematic. Byron and Stephen Rowley were both screenwriters. I think Byron probably still is. I don't know that for sure. I think Stephen is just a novelist now. But Byron, this is his second book. And it's just a charming summer read about a family that loves each other but have to overcome some things that they're just not comfortable yet with each other. And it's about found family and the complications of relationships and all of that. So that's Big Gay Wedding by Byron Lane, out from Holt Books. Okay. The next book, you know, if you've been watching my channel for a while, my husband and I are reading a book a month together, and he felt bamboozled when he finished this book. But this was our read this month, and it's Woman Eating by Clary Kohda, and this is out from HarperVia Books. So when I sold him this, I said, hey, this is about a female vampire, and a modern story about a female vampire trying to figure out her life. And he was like, okay. And that is what this book is. We meet the main character at the start of this book, and she had just... she's a mixed race vampire, which is important because it's sort of who she is identically. That's maybe not the right word, but her identity is very important to her because her mother, she has just put into a home, who is a vampire, and her father, who has disappeared, as an artist. And she is trying to figure out what she wants to do now with her life. Her mom, she moves in to this artistic space. She has just graduated college, and she has a, what's it called? An internship at a very important gallery. We learn quickly that her mother has a lot of internalized hatred for her vampireness and has raised her daughter in that manner as well, sort of like this demon inside thing. They've only eaten pig blood their whole lives, and she, the young daughter, is trying to figure out how to even get that now, and her hunger is starting to take over. And this is really a coming of age story for this young woman. She deals with sexism in the workplace. She deals with trying to figure out who she is. She deals with being attracted to humans and not knowing if she can actually have a relationship with them. And it's about hunger. It's really about hungry in the normal sense of just she needs to eat something and need to find something, but hungry for a future, hungry for a life, and hungry for an understanding of who you are and where you come from. I thought it is beautifully written. It was very different than what I thought it was going to be, which is 100% okay. And I thought it was a fantastic literary fiction novel. My husband wanted a horror novel. A horror novel, it is not. It is not a thriller. It is not any of that. But it is definitely about a young vampire woman trying to figure out what the world and the future hold for her. So that's Woman Eating by Clary Kohda. Okay, next is a book that I have to be honest with you. So the ARC came in, I had sort of heard about it. I was like, okay, that's fine. I didn't think that I would ever read it. And then I got a finished copy in the mail, and I was like, you know, that's usually a sign if I get more than one copy that I should pick a book up. And once I started reading it, I was obsessed. And that's Titanium Noir by Nick Harkaway, and this is out from Knopf. And I don't know what I thought this book was going to be, but it's sort of like a Dick Tracy Blade Runner with a sense of humor, if that makes sense. We are in a futuristic world. Our main character is a private eye who is brought in to investigate the death of a Titan. Now, Titans are a group of people who have gone under some sort of gene therapy that makes them stronger, healthier, taller, live longer than everyone else. And our main character, the detective, is really brought in for these types of investigations. Now, he doesn't work for the police department. He's sort of like a, what's the word I'm looking for when they sort of, oh my gosh, it's totally blanking in my head. But he just is brought in as, to do these sort of things for them and work with people on the force. That word is like literally on the tip of my tongue. But what happens is he winds up investigating this death and in finding out it's a murder, and it gets more and more complicated. He gets brought into the dark underside of the Titan world. He learns that there's a mystery about this man's death and who he is or who he was. it is just a page turner of sort of like a thriller murder mystery thing that I really enjoyed. I will say, being fair, it is a bit complicated, and at times some of the people got mixed up in my head, and I had to take a moment to sort of figure out where I was. But I really enjoyed the world. I really enjoyed the idea behind it. I thought that the person who wound up being our murderer was someone I did not expect at all. I thought how the story came together was rather clever. And I turned the pages. I did listen to this audiobook while I read it, which you know is my thing. Totally on board with that. The audiobook is excellent. And I really liked it. So if you like sort of like these avant-garde sci-fi noir detective things, this is a really good book. So that's Titanium Noir by Nick Harkaway, and this is out from Knopf. Okay. Last but not least is a book that it came in, and the day it came in, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to put it in this pile. And then I was just sitting there. I wasn't feeling great. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pick it up. I'll read a page. And I devoured it. I devoured this book. Oh, airplane going by. Sorry about that. We'll take a moment. That was rather loud. We've had some jets flying over lately. But I want to tell you about Little Monsters by Adrienne Brodeur, and this is out from Avid Reader Press. I was absorbed in this book. This is a family trauma saga thing. You know how much I love those things. So we have the core family is Adam and his two children. Adam is about to turn 70. He is a very famous oceanographer. He struggles with bipolar disorder, which he controls with medicine, but he's sort of being forced to retire, and he wants to make one last discovery, so decides to go off of his meds. That is Adam's story, trying to figure out how to keep himself focused, but dealing with his mental health issues. Then we have his daughter, Abby, who is an artist, who is just at the very beginning of the book, we find that she has been invited to be interviewed for a very prestigious art magazine for a piece that she's doing, which she is going to present to her father as a birthday gift. And it is really like a family story. Her brother is Ken. Ken is a Republican land developer, real estate guy who has ambitions to be in politics. He wants to become part of the House of Representatives. I should say sort of like a fourth character is Cape Cod, where this whole book takes place, and sort of the fact that this family resides there. Ken is on an uphill battle to get elected, and Ken is wanting to put together this like retirement center, and he wants his father to move from his sort of off the beaten path home into this, and he's going to present that as a birthday gift. And this book is all about the fact that there's some secrets in the family. The mother died birthing Abby, and she never really got to meet her mother at all. And that's always sort of hung over her. And we find out very early that she is now pregnant. There is another character, Steph. Steph she comes to the Cape, to the cod. She does not come to the fish. She comes to the Cape for vacation often, but she has found out she's having a child of her own, and she has found out that she has a genetic disorder. And she finds out that her father is not the father she thought. Not that. Her father is not her biological father. She finds that out very early in the book. That is not a spoiler. And then she goes searching for her father. And all of this sort of comes together. There is all this family drama. There are two very entertaining nieces, Abby's nieces, who are sort of finding themselves huge fans of those characters, huge fans of the whole entire sort of family story coming together. Adam is not perfect. Abby is not perfect. Ken is far from perfect. But you find out that there's a lot of history. Abby's best friend is named Jenny. Jenny and her were in art school together when Jenny's mom died, and she left art school and wound up marrying Ken, Abby's brother, and all of that sort of convoluted mess, which we love when we love a family drama. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was absolutely perfect. I read every single page. If I hadn't read Blackouts this month, this would have been my favorite read. And I don't know that anyone has been talking about it. So Little Monsters by Adrienne Brodeur, out from Avid Reader Press. Highly recommend. It's not like a happy, uplifting read. I was going to lift all these books, but then I just dropped them on the floor. So as always, if you are a return subscriber, thank you so much. If you are new to my channel, I hope you hit the subscribe button and hit that bell. I am always here talking about books. You know I love them. So as always, I encourage you to read locally, shop globally, read globally, shop locally. And until next time, I wish you happy reading, everyone. Bye.